This week on the State of Greater Western New York Report, we feature a former NFL player who didn't let the pandemic stop him from pursuing his entrepreneurial dream. Join us as he answers the 5 questions he had to ask himself before he started his business on this week's State of Greater Western New York Report. Brought to you by...
Imagine yourself communicating with a difference. Pan-Dimensional Solutions helps you do this. Whether live spectator events, taped broadcasts, or real-time audience-engaging programs, you can benefit immediately from the tools Pan-Dimensional Solutions will share with you. Do you want to make a difference? Contact us at pandimensional.com. Welcome, everyone, to this edition of the State of Greater Western New York Report. Join us each episode as we discuss fantastic topics ranging from history to science to the strange and the wonderful, as well as the treasured spirit with which our region has infused America. We challenge you to consider all things Greater Western New York, from our region's very beginnings to how it inspires, how it empowers, and why it is so admired. Here's the host of the State of Greater Western New York Report, Chris Carosa.
Welcome, everyone, to this week's edition of the State of Greater Western New York Report. We've got a very exciting guest with us today. He's done a lot of amazing things just in the last 12 months. He's Mr. Sidney Tarver. Sidney, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Chris. Thank you for having me on your platform. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you and the rest of Western New York.
You know, Sidney, you've got a very, very interesting background. When I talked to you, I was amazed. You know, obviously you were a professional football player. You got injured, but you always had this plan B. You always had this second option in the back of your head that you were going to actually do something once you left football. And when the time came, you were prepared to do exactly that. Tell us a little bit about how you got where you are today, you know, what got you started, and really what motivated you to move on.
So I grew up, born and raised Chattanooga, Tennessee. I was the son of a football coach. My dad was a football coach, so I've been around football pretty much my whole life. Grew up playing it, stand out in high school. I went to the University of Tennessee State where I played all 4 years, and I graduated with a degree in supply chain management. But I received the opportunity to play in the NFL. I was the undrafted free agent coming out of college. I spent a little time with the Cleveland Browns. I was cut from the Cleveland Browns. And then ultimately I was picked back up by the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I spent the remainder of that year playing with the Jacksonville Jaguars until I was ultimately cut again. And, that offseason I was working out. But then I kind of just got an eerie feeling, that football was over with me. And then I transitioned into my next career where I started working in warehousing. But, yeah, definitely football was a great tool. It helped me get to where I am today. It taught me discipline, team camaraderie, how to work with a team, how to go the extra mile, to perform at a high level. So I'm thankful for the game of football. It was a great experience, and it helped make me into the man I am today, the entrepreneur I am, everything I am today.
You know, a lot of athletes that I've spoken to have told me the exact same sort of thing, how important it was to learn the skills of teamwork and discipline and how it helped them later on in life. But supply chain management, logistics, I don't know too many people who went to college for that. You know, how the heck did you come up with that idea? What prompted you to go that route? It's very unusual, if not unique, if I might say so myself.
The true story, logistics. I wanted to go to college. When I first stepped on the college campus, I wanted to be a pharmacist. That was one of my ideas since a young kid. But back to football, playing football in a pharmacy, biology, chemistry classes, it just didn't mesh with my schedule. We're practicing for 3-4 hours a day in chemistry. I don't know if the people know about chemistry and biology classes. That takes a lot of work and dedication. So I was talking to one of my friends, like, man, this chemistry, I'm gonna have to switch my major. They were like, well, how about you check out supply chain management, logistics, supply chain management, business. So I took heed to that. I instantly switched my major to that, and here I am today, just working in the field. I've had a once I graduated college, stopped playing football. I started working. I was able to get into a leadership development program with this company called Damco Distribution. It was under the Maersk container shipping line in Portsmouth, Virginia. Um, I was working in a warehouse. I got to see the transportation side of things. I got to see containers coming off ships to the ports. I got to see customer service, warehousing. I was really introduced to logistics, and it really put a big picture in my mind of we're really helping the economy move by this is how the freight and this is how all consumer goods come into the country. They come in off the port, they get trucked to different locations throughout the United States, and that's what keeps our economy flowing. So logistics, supply chain, it opened my view of the world to it's a lot bigger than all of us.
You're certainly right. I don't know about you, but a year ago, I'm pretty sure nobody knew anything about supply chain and logistics. But over the last 12 months now, everybody knows about it. We've all been experiencing certain delays, and we know what supply chain disruption means, and, how we can get the various products that we're looking for that we need in our everyday lives, whether it's work or home or anything like that. So I think everybody universally now understands how critical this really long ignored component of the economy is, and you're a part of it right now. That has to be pretty exciting. I'm wondering, people they're ordering a lot. Go ahead.
The pandemic first hit, I was actually working for Amazon. I was an employee at Amazon. I worked for them for 5 years, but the pandemic hit, and I saw all these. We had to change the way we do things very fast. People were to come into the warehouse. You had to get your temperature took. You had to stay 6 feet. We're in a warehouse, though. I don't know if many people have been in a warehouse, but if you've been in a warehouse, people are on top of each other, moving boxes. It's a very kind of close knit operation. People are within 6 feet, so we had to adjust our operation to the new protocol, staying 6 feet. With Amazon, we were building routes and touching bags. The engineers literally had to come to our station and put in formulas to space the packaging out, space the pick stage times out to keep people socially distanced. It was quite a process, and Amazon adjusted well to it. So that was my beginning in seeing the processes. But during the pandemic, people were staying in their house more. So companies like Amazon, while other people were out of jobs and businesses, more e-commerce picked up. So people were at home, couldn't go out. You had to order toilet paper, you had to order masks, you had to order food, you had to order whatever you needed because people were legit scared and still are scared to come outside due to COVID-19. So we saw a lot of orders pick up. The volume was super heavy. We had just got out of peak season, but the volume was still comparable to peak season numbers when the pandemic first hit. And so the volume picked up in my world. The supply chain supplies were needed faster from China, so it created kind of a vacuum. The demand went up for supplies.
You're certainly on top of this, and really, you just hit right at the right time. And well, we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves right now. So why don't you tell us a little bit what prompted you to decide to start your business when you did? What did you see? How were you prepared? What did you actually do when it came time to launch? I mean, there's a lot of things that were going on. You certainly had to prepare in a lot of different ways, but in a sense, you had the wind behind your back. So tell us a little bit about that, and maybe what it felt, and what are some of the things you had to do to get the job done.
So I quit my job at Amazon in May 2020, and that's the same month I created my LLC. I knew I was a member. The program that I'm in the Amazon DSP, so I'm a delivery service provider. I was an employee, but they offered employees, if you quit this company, if you quit Amazon, we'll help you start your own transportation business. So I was working in that field and helped Amazon launch their delivery service thing. Amazon is only been packages for 5 years. I don't know if people knew that. They usually outsource their work to FedEx, USPS, or UPS. So they started providing a program where they were offering entrepreneurs the chance to come in and start up their own company, but they also offered that same thing to the employees. So I jumped on that opportunity after working in the department for 5 years. I said, hey, I got to have enough knowledge to do this by myself. I've been doing it for the last 5 years. I have nothing to lose. I had saved up a good chunk of money. And in May 2020, I took that leap of faith into entrepreneurship. And we launched here in Buffalo in July the 28th was our first day of operating in Buffalo, New York. I moved to Buffalo to start my company.
You moved to Buffalo. I like the sound of those words. What made you come to Buffalo?
Buffalo. Before quitting, I studied finance a lot. It's finance and the economy. I've lived everywhere in the United States. I've lived on the West Coast. I've lived in Texas. I've lived in Atlanta, Georgia. I've never lived in the Northeast, but I do my numbers. I do a cost of living. Every city I move to, I check out the cost of living. I had a few options. I had California. I could have moved to Seattle, Washington. I could have moved to New York City, but they made me an offer I couldn't refuse. And when I looked at Buffalo, I looked at the prices because I'm thinking New York, coming from where I'm from. I'm like, I know the cost of living is crazy in New York, but when I did my research in Buffalo, that wasn't the case. So it made the most economical sense for me to come to Buffalo, and that's where I am now.
You know, you're not the only person who confused Buffalo with New York City. I see this all the time, and I talk to people who see this all. In fact, I get calls from media in New York saying, hey, Chris, can you come down on our show? We need you this afternoon. Our guest didn't show, so can you come down? And I'm saying, yeah, sure. I'm 6 hours away. I mean, it's not a very close place to go to, and that's not, time distance isn't the only difference between Buffalo and New York City. There's obviously a lot of others, and you're discovering them. And in fact, there's a lot of people in West New York who know about them. Yeah. I mean, you did a good job doing that. So it's amazing how people are learning about this, like you, are discovering the advantages we have here in Western New York. We're going to take a break now just for a couple minutes. And when we come back, Sidney's going to be talking about the 5 questions that he had to answer before he started his business. So stay tuned for this. This will be very interesting. I'm sure that you'll like it a lot. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Through the mists of time, nature and man have both created and buried treasures beyond the imagination. With the ages, these riches slowly dissolve into mere myths until they are forever forgotten. But there are those brave souls who tirelessly cling to the truth, ever seeking to discover the undiscovered, to reveal what has always been there, to uncover the hidden gems of a land thought forsaken but loved by millions. 50 Hidden Gems of Greater Western New York. Discover the secrets in your own backyard. Buy your copy now at 50hiddengems.com.
Welcome back to the State of Greater Western New York Report. I'm Chris Carosi, your host, and it's an amazing show like it always is. We've got a great guest here. We've got Sidney Tarver. He's a logistics entrepreneur who made an impeccably timed decision to start his company right when the demand was about to skyrocket for the services that he provides. But you know what else he did before he started? Well, let me say this before you. If you want to ask him a question, if you're watching this live, by the way, if you're watching this live, if you receive the invitation to come and watch it live, please put a question down at the bottom in the chat room, and we'll be able to answer it or go it over or send it over to him. But Sidney, tell us a little bit about these 5 questions. In particular, Let's start with the first one. How do you know you have the talent to succeed? What happened in your life that gave you the confidence knowing that you could create a winning business? I mean, this is a big question that a lot of entrepreneurs have, and you certainly answered it. So take us down the road there. What did you do? How did you do it? And what made you think that you had the talent to succeed in a sustainable and a winning business? It's an important question.
Um, you know, I think about mindset, the talent to succeed. I like this quote: "Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right." So basically, whatever you think of yourself is basically what's going to appear in your life. Um, I knew I've had the talent on every level to excel because every level or challenge opportunity that came to my life, I've overcome it. School, graduating high school, graduating college, going to the NFL, getting cut from the NFL, coming back, working my way back up the ladder until I can eventually own my own company and business again. So I think talent's overrated. I think it's the work ethic and the mindset. Do you have the determination to succeed? How do you think of yourself? I've seen people that were 10 times more athletic than me in football, talented. They didn't even make it to college or the NFL, or they didn't finish high school because they weren't staying on the path of the work ethic. Also, I've seen way smarter people, with four. They got all academic, all accolades in class, and they work for somebody right now currently. So I have the talent to succeed because I learned to shift my mindset, and I learned that failure is not an option.
Failure is not an option. I really like that saying. I mean, it's an important motto that almost every entrepreneur ought to have, because failure really is just a stepping stone to success. You're going to fail. You should expect to fail, but you just need to know how to overcome it. As Vince Lombardi said, success is getting up after you got knocked down. So that's a critical point. But there's another area that entrepreneurs have to do. They have to have the wherewithal to go it alone. That's what an entrepreneur is. But does that have its limits? And if so, what are they? Can you really do everything all by
I
yourself?
came to terms with that. I mean, yes, you can do it all yourself, but it's not a sustainable way of life to you over an extended period of time. Yeah, for 6 months straight, I worked 7 days a week, but you couldn't turn that into 2 years. I would be burnt out. I'd probably be tired, ready to like throw the towel in if I was working at that pace for a year straight. But 6 months, you have bursts and spurts where you can go or have to rely on your team. I currently have a fleet of 20. Any given day, I can run 20 to 40 routes, and that I'm usually dealing with anywhere from 50 to 80 drivers. I have one operations manager. I have four different dispatchers who all help me do it. I give my hats off to my team. They every day, day to day, they make it happen. They do the work. They're out there delivering the packages, serving Western New York, Niagara Falls, the Buffalo metropolitan area. I give all the credit to my team. Um, I'm just here. I give them a few directions, give them a little guidance, give them support. But ultimately, it's the team. I have a great team in place. Um, my suggestion: if you make a good enough money where you can pay somebody and still instead of making 100% of the money, if you can make 50% of the money, but you have a team that you can pay and they'll do the job done because they're out there doing the things that you need them to do every day. Um, Use your money to buy your time back if you can. It depending on what you want to do with your career. Um, Outsource the work to the people who can do it better than you. Um, my managers, I've outsourced HR help. I've outsourced all the things that I don't want to do, and it fits within my budget. I will outsource it to buy back my time so I can work on other things. Also, I empower my team. I want those guys who are out there doing the job every day. I really value their opinion. They're seeing it every day. So I have open conversations with my team. Hey guys, what do we need? What can I provide you to make your job easier? Also, delegate them and give them the power to make the decisions. Um, I know a lot of companies, we work from the top down. When I was working, whatever the corporate office said, that's what comes down no matter what the opinion of the bottom people. But I'll make a decision, but I like to get my team's feedback on what can make their jobs easier. Um, so I let the people who do the everyday work. I listen. I listen to my team. I get the feedback. Of course, I don't go with everything they do, but I agree with them, and I let them have the power of it's the power of the people. People first logistics.
That's definitely true. A lot of entrepreneurs aren't in a position to hire, but might be able to bring on freelancers or virtual assistants. How do you know when you should do this? What's the clue?
Well, I knew. Okay, I worked for Amazon for 5 years, so I talked with other owners as I was working with them. I worked with other owners in Las Vegas, Houston, and Atlanta. So I kind of, hey, what positions do you have right away, or what positions could wait? So I hired an HR and an operations manager right away because I knew it would make my job easier, and I knew I had enough money saved up where I could afford to start with these people in place to kind of mold the company and be able to get it started off on a good foot.
When you delegate, you save time for yourself, and time is an important asset. How much time will it take, that sort of thing. Speaking of time, we're about 10 or so minutes out to cover these last three questions.
Let's get it. We'll knock them out. Time, there is no time limit. I equate it with the more knowledge you have on a subject, you can usually speed things up. But back to hire people who know how to do the job. If you can afford it, hire that so you can pay somebody to do the job faster, because that's what they do. Knowing when to pay and knowing when to do things yourself, decision making. Also, you can ask professionals in your same industry, pick their brain, get your mentors. Rome wasn't like built in one day. I like to tell people that, but use your resources, reach out to people, don't be afraid to network with people who've done it. Most entrepreneurs want to help each other do things quicker, or tell you your past experiences so they can learn from and build faster with you.
As you say, time is a resource, and it's often underestimated how important it is as a resource. On the other hand, too many entrepreneurs spend an awful lot of effort on a resource that they spend worrying about and trying to address, and that resource is money. You mentioned how you saved a lot of money to be prepared to start for your business. How do you determine how much startup money you need? How did you do that? And maybe where did you get the money from? Where might other entrepreneurs look for money? The money question is a very, very critical question with a lot of entrepreneurs, and they really kind of sometimes stumble over that at the same time while they're ignoring time.
Well, as the money aspect, I always saved and invested. Even when I worked for Amazon, I still saved. I had an emergency fund just in case Amazon fired me or something happened with my job. I had enough money to live for 6 to 12 months. So an emergency fund was always important. But I was always a saver and investor. I would say in business, it's going to cost money. It's going to cost money. It's always going to cost more than you think it's going to cost. That's from my experience. But there are many places to go to get startup money. My favorite method is I know how to save. I can put a plan together to save money quick. But you can get loans from family, friends, 401k, take a loan out, business funding companies out there. You can take a loan out from the bank. You can go to investors and sell percentages of your business to investors after you pitch it to them to build up capital. It's different ways. I tell a lot of entrepreneurs, don't let money be the deciding factor from you doing your idea. If your idea, if it's good to you, if you pitch it to somebody, I promise you're going to create the ways to get the money to fund your business. It's going to work out if you look right.
Yes, definitely. Many entrepreneurs do a lot of energy at the very beginning towards finding that first sale. And there's nothing wrong with that, although ironically, it's the last sale that they ought to be considering first. What's your exit strategy? How are you going to end this business? You're not going to last forever in your business. What's going to happen to your business after you go? So this is the kind of question that a lot of entrepreneurs don't ask. So, and it's got to be considered right up front, really right before you start, because a lot of the way you structure things, including your financing, might help define how you exit the business when the time comes. So what have you determined when it comes to the potential sale of your business? How might you do that? And, take us through what you went through when you're considering the various exit strategies that you could do and that maybe some other people could do. It's a very interesting topic, and I know it's something you thought of.
I read a lot. So I like reading other entrepreneur stories. Like I hear Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, they started with PayPal, or they started with a company, now they're doing space. So I just think of my mindset like this is just the stepping stone for me. It's the start. I love this business. I love what I'm doing. But the right opportunity, the right valuation, it might call for me to, hey, fire myself, hire another person to run it for me, or ultimately sell it. So I know this isn't my last venture. So I always make plans. I work with my accountants. You can get a valuation on your company. If you work with your advisory team, your lawyers, they can evaluate your profits and give you an estimate for three years times whatever the formula or whatever price your company's valued at to sell it to. But you should always start with the end in mind. Anything you do. Are you selling your company to retire? Are you selling it to buy a bigger business venture? It's up to you and your business, because people always say, well, I'm going to pass it down to my kids. What if your kids don't want anything to do with the company you're running? They could care less. So just always have a plan, up to you and your vision. Write out a plan of, hey, in 5 years, I'm going to sell this company. I'm going to buy this, start this new company, and go over here. So just starting with the end in sight. Ultimately, it's up to you and your vision and your dreams, or how big or small you want to go. So it's ultimately up to you. But I'm not attached to anything, if that makes sense.
It certainly does. Sidney, thank you very much for sharing what you've been up to over these past 12 months. We've got about 30 seconds, and we did get one question from the audience that sounded interesting, and that is, what's the most surprising thing you discovered over the course of your first year?
The
yes.
winter in Buffalo. That I got so many vans stuck. I saw it on. Don't get me wrong, it's not that bad, but I didn't know it snowed. Like, I've never experienced snow, just snow on top of snow on top of, and even 2 days ago it snowed here, so I'm just getting used to the snow. But I love it here. Western New York.
That's why you delegated driving to those experienced Buffalo drivers.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah.
Well, do you want to be, again, Sidney, thank you very much for being a part of today's show. You had some great answers. You really posed some interesting questions that I think a lot of entrepreneurs want to do. And again, if you want to be a member of the live audience, give us a call or shout us out or join us at stateof.greaterwesternnewyork.com. Just go there, sign up, become a member, join, I don't know, whatever it's called, and we'll send you an email every Thursday morning when the show appears live at noon, and you'll be able to be a member of the audience and just jot down a question, and we'll forward it on to the guest. It's a really easy thing to do, and it's a very exciting thing to do. I know that Sidney had fun here when he was doing it, and I know in our past guests have too. So if you want to be involved, then definitely sign up at stateofgreaterwesternnewyork.com and do it right now. And if you're listening to us on YouTube or Facebook, like us or subscribe there too. Heck, we're all over the place, wherever you want to be. So it's the stateof.greaterwesternnewyork.com. So once again, thank you for watching today's show. It was a great time, and we'll see you next week.